Thank you, Madam Clerk. And welcome to Committee of the Whole for October 29th. I'd like to welcome everyone joining us electronically for this Committee of the Whole meeting. Today we are meeting in a physically distinct manner at the Highline Hall in the Wellington and District Community Centre to ensure that we're able to maintain a minimum distance of 6 feet distance between each other. Committee members and staff who are in attendance here at the Highline Hall should practice physical distancing for the duration of the meeting, including any recesses and after the meeting has been adjourned. Although committee is meeting in person again, the physical meetings are prohibited to the public at this time. This is necessary to maintain distancing and eliminate the gathering of large groups to protect staff, committee, and the public from the spread of COVID-19. Members of the public are still able to make deputations and comments to committee electronically. Today's agenda lists all of the items before committee for consideration. The recommended motions on today's agenda are shown in boldface. Copies of the agenda have been posted on our website. This meeting is being live streamed, and any participation in the meeting proceedings will become part of the public record. The recording from the meeting will be published on the county's website immediately and can be viewed by selecting the streaming tab on the county's homepage at thecounty.ca. Under agenda item 5, I will be asking for comments from the audience. Members of the public who wish to provide comments at future meetings can do so by contacting clerks at pecounty.on.ca to register. Your name will be included in the committee minutes and form part of the public record posted to the county's website. We have 3 deputations today. And when deputants speak, please give your full name and address and address your comments to the chair. Following your deputation, there may be questions from members of the council. Any motion made at this meeting is not final until the council meeting of November 10th, 2020, at which time council may approve, amend, defer, or otherwise change the motion made by this committee. In the event of a fire, please use the applicable exits in Highline Hall or wherever you are tuning in from. And my name, by the way, is John Hirsch, Councillor for South Marysburg. Could I now get a mover and seconder to confirm the agenda? Councillor Prinzen, Councillor McNaughton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a Prinzen McNaughton motion that the agenda for the Committee of the Whole meeting of October 29, 2020 be confirmed.
Thank you very much. All in favor? And that carries. Thank you. Moves us to item 3, disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Does anyone have any declaration to make? Seeing none, that will take us to deputations. And as noted, we have 3 deputations. The first is from Eric Harari. And Catalina, do we have Mr. Harari on the line?
Yeah. Yes, I'm here.
Good.
How about
Okay.
you?
So I'll just introduce this, Eric. This is Eric Harari, CEO of Bel Air Resort and Residences, and Guillaume Gilbert, Vice President, Apur Creative, to address council regarding residential and resort development at Halfmoon Point. And I would just note for our audience that this is a deputation concerning a proposal. This is not a decision item at this time. So, Mr. Harari, you have 10 minutes. Hopefully you don't have YouTube on because that creates feedback. And
Sure.
We'll let you go ahead.
Okay, so first off, I just wanted to thank you all to give me this opportunity to present, this project. I came for the first time in your region in August 2020, and it was really, literally, I fell in love at first sight. I'm this kind of person. I'm passionate about things, and I really, really loved your region, to the rural agriculture approach. I think it's fantastic. And I actually, as soon as I went there the first time, I put the property under contract the day after. And I would be really very proud to have my concept being there. I have been involved in several developments. The first one was in Mont-Tremblant, in Canada. I don't know if you can see me. I guess not, right? Okay. Yes. So I developed my project in Mont-Tremblant, Canada. It was the same story. I got there, fell in love with the beauty of the land, and just wanted to create something that was very, very different. You know, first off, it was more modern. And more than that, I wanted to integrate with the local nature. I believe that what people want to do as an experience is just the connection with the nature. It was true when I started, which was in 2015, but even now it's even, you know, obviously for obvious reason, even more important. It was very important for us to have a low density project. I didn't want to build a hotel in 4 stories. So from the get-go, I built a clubhouse, built some pods in order to create something that was very unique. I literally spent the last 10 years of my life, you know, giving my passion and my love to this project. And the results are pretty, you know, satisfying from my standpoint. You know, it is not only the best-selling project in Quebec, you know, in a matter of 2 years, you know, we sold around 85 houses. The hotel part has been since the beginning, you know, very interesting because the concept was just very different. In 2015, we were the recipient of, you know, from TripAdvisor, for they selected us as being one of the 10 nicest alpine chalet in the world. And in 2020, which is, you know, in August of this year, we just received the award of excellence for service, etc. So right now we are developing, you know, luxurious, one very different because everything is built around pods that you're going to see in a few minutes. So anyway, when I came to Prince Edward County, I immediately saw that there was an opportunity to create a very luxurious community, low density. Again, for me, keeping the rural and the beautiful character of the region is central, because at the end of the day, this is what you're selling. This property is unique for obvious reasons because of the shorelines that is absolutely gorgeous. And the idea is to have a mixed project, residential and lodging. The lodging part will be done with, you know, around 80 units of those pods that are 800 square feet, 700 square feet, 800 square feet approximately. I designed those pods, I invented those pods really, that this did not exist anywhere. And the acceptance for the market is just amazing. I mean, we have reservation 2 months in advance in Mont-Tremblant. And then we had to adapt, you know, the concept to make it even more luxurious for Prince Edward County. I think there is this incredible opportunity to have a wellness, you know, everything that surrounded by the wellness, to have an organic approach, to mix with the nature, to take advantage of water activities with providing, you know, with a marina, and to be able to give access to the public as well. You know, once they got to Prince Edward County or in one of our, you know, activities, they will be able to have access to everything. And that's pretty much it. I mean, we can start the video now, you would see, and you're gonna have a very much better understanding of what is my vision. But truly, from all the real estate venture that I've done, it is probably one of the more exciting for me, you know, project. I think we can start the video if you want. It's going to take you 2 minutes.
I believe the clerk is going to organize the video for us.
I think you had it. Oh, yeah.
We just lost the whole thing. We're having some technical difficulties for those who are watching from home. Is Mr. Harari still with us? Looks like we've lost the Zoom call and everything.
Try one more time. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So we're going to start the video again.
Great, thank you. Is it possible to let Braden in, Catalina? No?
Yep, just one sec.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's just going to present the Pecuniary group. I simply wanted to introduce ourselves so the planners that are working on the project. I'm Guillaume Gilbert, as I was introduced by the mayor. So we're a creative planning agency. We've been working in the field for over 26 years. And we've been working with Eric Harari for about 10 years now, I want to say, if not more. We worked on a very prestigious development in the Tremblant area, the Bel Air Resort. So we have this sensitivity to do resort development nestled in nature, and this is pretty much our forte. I'll just let Braden introduce the Pecuniary group, which I believe you already know.
So I'm Braden Levosky from the Pecuniary Group. I'm a planner here. Pecuniary Group, we've been serving both private and public sector clients for beyond 1994 with Tony Pecuniary. We specialize in community creation, residential, commercial, institutional, industrial, and related developments, and have seen through from the beginning to end various official plan, zoning bylaw, draft plan of subdivision, and related development applications. And we're very excited to be a part of this project and work alongside both Apur as well as Bel Air and the various other consultants with seeing this project through.
Perfect, thank you. So just quickly, if you want to go to page 4 of the presentation, so the location of the project, I believe you're probably comfortable with your area. You know it probably way better than we do. It's just to understand quickly the context. The project is located at Halfmoon Point, riparian of Ontario Lake in the southeastern part of Prince Edward County, and the site is crossed by Road 13. Going on to page 5, I'm just going quickly. I feel like we're probably short on time right now. But to go on page 5 is the conceptual draft plan of subdivision. Just to be noted that this is a preliminary concept which will evolve with further studies, including the environmental site assessment study that's underway, and also the geotech and the functioning servicing report. So as you saw in the video, the project is a primarily residential and resort development that's nestled in nature and in its natural environment. It includes 4 different zones of development where we'll have specific land uses. There's the residential development that's concentrated adjacent to the lake, so on the shoreline. That's on the eastern part of Road 13. It's primarily based on the linear and cluster development concepts, as is obligated by the official plan. There's also the resort and lodging on the southeast part, which includes a reception area with different services such as a restaurant and a bar, as well as a beach and marina, which will allow for public access. These areas will be available for the public. There's the western part of the project that includes farmland dedicated to agriculture uses and on-farm diversified uses. For example, a small farmer's market, a wine tasting, or anything related to agro-tourism. And finally, there's a recreational area, the pink shaded area on the bottom right corner of the plan, which will include different recreational activities, including tennis courts, a spa, or other related uses to tourism.
Guillaume, I'm going to have to interrupt you for a moment and ask you to wrap up, please.
Yeah, just to mention that the roads will be municipal owned, driveways will be shared, and the servicing will be all private. Just to cover those different details, we've provided preliminary statistics only just to give you an idea of the different uses and the different areas, how they're going to be used. This is going to be, so it's going to be provided, a more detailed table of statistics will be provided once we have all the different reports done. And I'll let Braden present the land use designations in the official plan.
Okay, thank you. We're going to have to end this now. You folks should remain available for questions from council. Do councillors have any questions? Councillor Bailey.
Thank you for your presentation. The area you're building in or intend to build in is a very beautiful place, and it would be a shame to see it damaged in any way. It is an extremely environmentally sensitive area, and I would certainly hope that that is something that is being considered. The question that I have has to do with a bit of a disconnect, which is to say, do you currently own the property?
Have we lost the deputant? Let's just see if we can get them back on Zoom so they can answer questions. Just for those watching at home, if indeed you can still hear us, we're having trouble with our Zoom connection, so please bear with us for a few minutes. We're going to call a recess for 5 minutes. they're putting on more towers. Yeah. And offering, I know parts of Hilliard now can get this service. The one I'm pointing at, you know where my house is on County Road 1? The antenna's in Demerstown. But there's a clear line of sight, so. Well, that's it, they automatically increase the payment. They'll improve services.
I think we're back. No problem.
Okay, committee, we're going to resume. If we could take our seats, please. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We are living in the times of COVID, of course. So I believe Councillor Bailey's question was on the subject of the ownership of the land. So do you have an answer for us?
Yes, we still have the contract for until January the 6th. So we're not the owner yet of the land, to answer your question.
Thank you. That'll do.
Thank you. I have Councillor Harper next.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. Just wondering if you've been following some of the developments here, that we have a draft official plan that's in the works, and have you had a chance to consider that as it relates to your development?
As for we're basing the development based on the official plan that's in force. The current official plan.
Thank you. Is there someone else? Councillor McNaughton.
Thank you. Yes. So it's a somewhat ambitious project in an area that is quite remote and doesn't have a lot of infrastructure support. Is there, and it seems to have a combination of rental and for purchase housing, I suppose, under a condo model. Can you sort of talk about what is anticipated in that regard? Ownership, if in another ownership regarding the units, it seems to be sort of a portion of residential, year-round residential units and a portion of rentals for tourism purposes. And then also, can you clarify, do you anticipate serving the people who would come out to, hypothetically come out on the property for all of their needs, essentially restaurant needs, recreational needs on site?
Can somebody? I couldn't hear because it's the.
So she's asked about the ownership. Who's the parts that are going to be privately owned or part of a condominium complex, and also in terms of the commercial needs and the servicing, if everything is going to be provided on site.
Yes. The idea again is we're going to have the homeowners association for the houses, which is one thing, and on the commercial part, yes, we will basically offer all the services from there: the restaurant, all the amenities, the grocery store, the farmers market will be sources locally, of course. The wine, again, I think this is one of the main attractions. We will sell local wines. Yes, everything will be, and this will be managed by the hotel part.
And sorry, I might have missed it, but was there any thought put toward on-site housing for workers?
Yeah, I mean, we did this actually in Mont-Tremblant. So again, we didn't go that much in the details, but this is actually what we did in Mont-Tremblant. We created 7 or 8 houses, for our employees.
Thank you.
Next is Councillor Roberts.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Eric and Guillaume and others for the presentation. My understanding, Eric, is that the Mont-Tremblant project took 9 long years of negotiation for various permits and permissions to get some shovels in the ground. And that during that time, according to your website, you undertook a marketing study to, I guess, reassure yourself and your investors that I think the website says that you devised a perfect bulletproof plan, end of quote. Have you done the same thing for this project with regard to Prince Edward County, a marketing study?
Well, to answer your questions, the 9 years was not really because, I had to do all these marketing studies, but I had plenty of time. Again, the challenges there were very difficult because of the mountains. I've traveled all over the world, based on my experience of what happened in Quebec. I don't need much of, again, you have in front of you somebody that called crazy for the past 10 years. Everybody that I've met told me I'm crazy. I heard that big balls over and over and over again. That's what I got all the time. However, I felt from the get-go that this was a very, when I said bulletproof is, I didn't want to do something that was similar to the other people. I know that there's a need, specifically in your region. If you, when I tried to come here twice, once I went to Kingston because there was nothing available there. The second time, it was very hard, but I got a room for one night at the Drake. But anything else, the Drake was outrageously, expensive for what it is, I believe. And I think you have a jewel there. And, I don't need personally to have much of a marketing study to do this. I'm willing to put my money because, again, this is what I do. I don't work with bank. I don't have investors. I'm just working with my money. And I'm 110,000% sure that this will work. If you do it, what I've done in Tremblant is, this did not exist. And people, again, were very, they didn't believe very much into the project. I was so sure about it, I just kept with my own ideas, and it proved to be, magical experience. And this magic will work there. I have no doubts about it. To tell you the truth, a year ago I went to Japan, in a beautiful place, and I went in a place called Aman Resort. The setup was a little bit similar to yours, but yours is way better. Okay, and build it, they will come. And if you know how to do this, and I know how to do that, I have no problem. We're taking care of everything, the hotel part, the selling, everything. So we're a small company, but vertically oriented. We have one out of the box, approach, and definitely, sold on it 100%. I've been really working for the past 3 months. 90% of my time was on Prince Edward County.
Follow up?
Thank you, Eric. J'ai une deuxième question à poser. Eric, you've heard at this meeting, and I'm sure you've heard prior to this meeting, that Prince Edward County has a very strong local appreciation for the environment, for natural areas, for wildlife. I'd like to give you a chance to explain a bit more how Bel Air has cared for and addressed these considerations in past projects.
Sure. First off, we're used to work with municipalities. We work with them. The reason, that it took so long is because we had to negotiate, quote unquote, with the environment back in Quebec. There was a lot of red tape to do there. And again, the fact that, if you take the pots, for example, they built in a very, organic way, meaning, we build them in a prefab manufacturing facility that we own. So when you build this, you need to have a very, very tight envelope. Again, we used to build in Quebec, which is extremely cold, as you know. So we have an envelope that is very, very tight, as far as everything. There's no air coming in, so we are reducing our energy conservation, resources, all the material, next to Quebec to avoid to have, all the carbon print, as I said. So this part is, one thing. And then again, it's just working with you. It's magnificent. And I know everybody probably is very well attached to that. And the whole aspect of it is just not to destroy it, is to work with that, to be in a part with this. And, we'll work, just to preserve it as much as we can while, developing it. But, as you see, our idea is not to put, I've seen other developments in your, in your county, and it's overdeveloped. And obviously, even if you told me that, please do that, I would never do this, because this is not what we're about. This is not what my project is about. When I built my thing in Tremblant, for example, I built a farm from scratch. Okay, and I was with the mayor, of Mont-Tremblant, and he said, "Oh, wow, that's fantastic! You build a farm. It looks like it was there for the past 30 years. We would have never been able to do this in Mont-Tremblant. Because I'm in two municipalities. I'm in Concepcion, which is one municipality, and the other one. So the idea is really to bring back everything and to preserve nature. Otherwise, the concept doesn't work."
Bon, merci.
Councillor Bailey.
You mentioned, or Councillor Roberts mentioned, market studies. I'm not so much concerned about that. I'm wondering if you have had a chance to speak to the people who live in the area, because I've had a number of emails and phone calls from the people who live in that area, and they had never heard of this until they saw it as an agenda item. So I'm wondering if you had any chance to find out what the local folk thought about it.
This is a question for me?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Well, yeah, really not. As you know, what we were able to accomplish up to this point is we knew that, it was very important to present it to you first. We understand that as, of course, the residents, as I say, in anything, but, we've been so tight, because of COVID issues and stuff in timing, that we just focus our attention to be able to, first off, create the concept. And literally, I spend, 90% of my time on this project for the past 3 months, between with the architect, with the designers and stuff. And we felt in first point that, this should be agreeable to you all. Because again, I don't want to fight, again, 9 years, you cannot see me, but, I used to have black hair and I'm all white. And that's not my intention. I don't want to fight with anybody. If this is something that you guys don't want to do, it will not happen, because I'm not going to fight. I think this will be a masterpiece, a very good element for your region. That will be able to attract, and it will be successful. But again, the councilman needs to want it, and then the public needs to want it as well. I think this is without being said. But my intention is not to to fight. I'm fighting to get the best project I can, but then politically or for the resident, they need to want it, of course. So the answer is no. We focus our attention to you guys and presenting you something that we believe or we hope that you would like.
Thank you. I have one last question, Eric, and that is, you understand the planning process, of course. Could you let us have some idea when you intend to file a planning application?
Maybe Braden will answer that one.
Absolutely. So our intention is to submit for a zoning bylaw amendment by November 17th to PEC. And following that submission, we would be preparing a revised zoning bylaw amendment and draft plan of subdivision application. This initial submission would include planning rationale report, ESA phase 1, geotechnical investigation, and a functional servicing report for the original submission, and then additional reports, plans, and documents would be submitted in a following submission with draft plan of subdivision.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Eric, I just want to thank you for putting the presentation together. I know you put a lot of work into this. We've had a couple of conversations in the past, but I appreciate you coming forward and presenting to the rest of council. And the proposal is going in the right direction with the planning department, and we'll see where it goes. But thank you very much for the time you've committed to this and the expense.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Could I have someone, a mover and seconder, to receive the deputation? Councillor Roberts and Councillor Margetson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a Roberts-Margetson motion that the deputation of Eric Harari, CAO Bel Air Resort and Residences, and Guillaume Gilbert, Vice President Apur Creative regarding residential and resort development at Halfmoon Point be received.
All in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much. That will move us to, and thank you very much, Eric and company, for your deputation. That will move us to item 4.2. And hopefully we have Amy Bodman on the call from the Prince Edward County Field Naturalist to address council regarding support of the 2020 draft official plan.
I'm here. I'm going to try to figure out how to share my screen. Thank you.
Okay, just a reminder, Amy, that you've got 10 minutes and speak closely to the microphone so we can hear, and I hope you have YouTube off.
Okay, will you give me a chance to get the screen up first before you start the 10 minutes, please?
Sure thing.
Okay, thanks. Okay, can you all see it?
Looks good.
Great, okay. My name is Amy Bodman. I live in Wellington, and I'm speaking today on behalf of the Prince Edward County Field Naturalists. Thank you to the mayor and councilors and chair for receiving our deputation in support of the draft official plan. As the vision statement in the draft official plan so eloquently puts it, what is most valuable and worth protecting will always lead back to our roots, set deep into the physical elements that shape this island. Our vision of the county in the future includes our natural heritage, deeply connected to the physical elements that shape our island, preserved from the past. Okay, is this are you seeing it big or not? It's not looking right on my thing.
It looks good here.
Okay, good. All right. This vision translates into actively encouraging development that champions the protection of the county's wildlife habitat, our undeveloped shorelines. Okay, I'm just going to back up. I think I missed a line. Sorry. Our vision of the county in the future includes our natural heritage, deeply connected to the physical elements that shape our island, preserved from the past. This vision translates into actively encouraging development that champions the protection of the county's wildlife habitat, our undeveloped shorelines, our lakes, our inland and coastal wetlands, our areas of natural and scientific interest, our creeks, our bays, our dunes, our fields, our hedgerows, our escarpments, and our woodlands. All of the natural features and attractions that are so fundamentally a part of what makes the county so extraordinarily beautiful, special, and unique. The goal of protecting the natural heritage of Ontario led the province to create the concept of natural core areas and linkages, which prevents large-scale development in these areas. Our draft official plan has incorporated natural areas and core linkages, ensuring that growth and new development will coexist with the protection of our natural environment. Our natural heritage is two things. As I just listed, our natural heritage represents our natural features, features that attract residents to live here and tourists to visit, while allowing the county to be home to great biodiversity, many species at risk, and a major migration route. Our natural heritage is integral to defining the quality of place experience in the county. As such, it is a massive driver of the economy. However, our natural heritage also represents our natural infrastructure. Some of the important infrastructure services the county's natural heritage provides us are water replenishment and retention. Our wetlands and woodlands recharge our groundwater while improving our water quality by removing toxins, a service performed by cattails. Flood protection. Our coastal wetlands protect our shoreline and properties close to it from erosion and flooding caused by storm surges. Erosion protection from water and wind. Our wetlands slow down the movement of water across our soils, and our woodlands, hedgerows, and dunes lessen the amount of soil lost to wind. An increasingly rare habitat for fish and wildlife, supporting the county's recreation industry and improving the health of our bays and lakes. The wildlife we protect in them, in turn, keeps our natural infrastructure intact. Excuse me. As Ducks Unlimited states, new research and on-the-ground projects are building the case for leveraging wetlands as an effective form of natural infrastructure to reduce flood risk, buffer communities from storm surges, and improve water quality. Natural infrastructure saves municipalities money. As long as we take care of it, we don't have to expand, replace, and repair it every couple of decades as we do with, say, town water systems, water treatment facilities, wells, cisterns, and retaining walls. In terms of water, while Picton, Bloomfield, and Wellington are serviced by built infrastructure, the majority of the county's water supply is dependent on our natural infrastructure. Schedule D shows the major recharge areas in the county. If you look closely, you can see that they are all near wetlands. It also shows you a number of other wetlands scattered throughout the rural lands where we are encouraging development like breweries and wineries and other endeavors that require a lot of water. These unidentified smaller wetlands play a crucial part in restoring the groundwater these businesses depend upon. Now compared to Schedule B. Schedule B reveals, through these core areas, the interconnectedness of a number of other, even smaller wetlands that all contribute to getting water into the ground. So you can see them all throughout there. There are many more than were on Schedule D. With expanding development and the desire to bring more and more people to the county to live and visit, we need to preserve this incredibly important infrastructure. There are other reasons why it is so important to protect our natural infrastructure. One example is the county's susceptibility to drought, which historically is not new. Based on numbers from the El Dorado Weather website, the amount of rainfall in the 30 years from 1970 to 2000 indicates that Prince Edward County receives the least rain in the months of May, June, July, and August, making it the most drought-susceptible area in southern Ontario. These 4 months of the summer represent our busiest months, both for agriculture, because it's the growing season, and for tourism, when our population skyrockets. Agriculture and tourism are our largest economic drivers. These are the months we both need and use water most. Since we generally get very little rain in these months, we desperately need to protect the natural features that get water into the ground. Another reason we need to protect our natural infrastructure is because it protects our aquifers, which supply most or much of the county's drinking water. The official plan states, highly vulnerable aquifers are areas where the quality of drinking water sources is vulnerable to contamination by various land uses or activities. In accordance with the Quinte Region Source Protection Plan, the entire county has been identified as a highly vulnerable aquifer. A third reason is climate change. As the Environmental Advisory Committee report recently stated, due to climate change, the county is experiencing increasing weather volatility, windstorms, frequent ice storms, unpredictable thaws and extraordinary flooding events, unpredictable long-term effects of longer droughts, soil erosion, and greater risk of grass and forest fires. Concretely, these effects have caused $1.7 million in county expenses related to flood disaster, more than $7.5 million for crop insurance claims due to drought, unknown losses to underinsurance costs, a 100% increase in hauling water costs, and extreme flooding in 2017 and 2019. Due to events like these, Council declared a climate emergency in 2019. The land provides a living for many hundreds of families in Prince Edward County. We therefore have a duty to do all we can to protect that land, especially as we know that the social, economic, and environmental costs will continue to rise on a local and global scale as the climate crisis grows. Goals of the official plan for the future should include increased attention to flood and drought management, increasing the tree canopy, and landscape protection. To cope with increasing extremes, we need to protect the natural heritage that we have and expand it where possible. To conclude, we have found a few errors in the draft official plan. The first one is with the population estimates. Table 1 shows us that the permanent population is projected to rise by 2,104 people over the next 18 years. However, if you average 2 people per household, new housing developments already publicly on the table exceed that full-time population growth. For instance, the developments that I know about projected for Wellington, County Club Estates, Fields of Wellington, and Wellington Bay add up to over 1,036 units. That's already an additional 2,072 mostly full-time residents right there. Add on to that the projected housing developments in Picton or any of the ones that have built since 2011. And then there are all of the development applications on the table that we don't know about and more undoubtedly to come. We worry that these numbers could be off by the thousands. These population estimates need to be revised. Slab Creek. In 2018, when staff were informed by the MNRF that this wetland has been reclassified as a provincially significant wetland, here it is right here, they assured us that its status would be changed on Schedule B. However, it has not been. It needs to be corrected. We have asked that it be included in Natural Core Area E with a linkage drawn to Pleasant Bay. This is Natural Core Area E, and here's Pleasant Bay. So the linkage would be there. And 3, various buffer areas in the plan meant to protect important natural features were set at 50 meters by the consultants. On this version, they've been reduced to 30 meters. The county experiences exceptionally strong storm surges due to the fact that it's an island. It is the driest county in southern Ontario in the summer months and is considered a highly vulnerable aquifer. And then there is climate change, projected to become worse in the next 18 years. Our buffer zones need to be restored to 50 meters around all of our wetlands and important natural features. We are lucky to have the natural heritage we have here in the county, which has allowed us to become the exceptional place we are. We need to proceed with the new official plan and protect our natural heritage for the county's future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amy. I'll now ask committee if we have questions for Amy Bodman.
Okay, so do I stop? I'm not sure how to, oh, stop share, I see it. Thank you. Okay.
And now we get to see you instead of the screen. Great. Do we have any questions? Councillor McNaughton to start.
Hi, Amy. It's Kate. How are you doing?
Pretty well, thanks. I sort of hear you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thanks. That's good to know. That was my next question because the last deputation seemed to have some trouble hearing. Can you just review what you were saying about the recommendation from the consultant being 50 meter setbacks or 50 meter buffers, and now it appears as 30?
Yes. In the what we've been checking are the adjacent lands section in the glossary, and that if you go into that under adjacent lands, there's a glossary attached with the draft official plan, which you can get on the Have Your Say website. There are buffers set for all provincially significant features. I believe it's set at 120 meters, and for coastal wetlands, it's set at 50 meters. In this draft official plan, it says 30 meters. We believe that and I believe in the last plan, but I couldn't exactly find it, it was set at 50 meters for all significant or all EP lands. But we strongly feel that it needs to be a 50 meter setback from all wetlands. There's another part of the official plan that acknowledges that a lot of our wetlands have not been designated. So for instance, I was involved with getting Slab Creek designated, and it had been kind of noticed by the MNRF or I'm not quite sure what the word is, but noted on a desktop assessment that it was probably a provincially significant wetland, and that was back in 1984. After that, the MNRF had a lot of cutbacks. And so it took us finding some species at risk, nesting there and stuff like that to get it designated. So we have a lot of wetlands in the county that have not even been looked at. So I really feel, and we feel as PECFEN, that it's super important to protect them because they are so important to our groundwater, which is not like the rest of Ontario.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mayor Ferguson, did you have a question? No. Anyone else? Apparently not. Thank you so much, Amy.
Okay.
Great
Thank you very
deputation.
much.
Thank you. That will take us to item 4.3, Victoria Taylor.
Confirm the deputation.
Oh, sorry, I have to receive the deputation. Can I have a mover and seconder to receive the deputation? Councillor Bailey, Councillor Margetson.
This is a Bailey-Margetson motion that the deputation by Amy Bodman regarding Prince Edward County Field Naturalists' support of the 2020 draft official plan be received.
All in favor? And that carries. Thank you. Now we'll move to item 4.3, Victoria Taylor to address council regarding Quinte Campark Fourward Holdings rezoning and official plan amendment. And I see Catalina is trying to get Victoria on the line. Victoria, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. So just a reminder, you have 3 minutes. Please speak clearly into your microphone and ensure that your YouTube is off. 10 minutes, sorry, 10 minutes.
Great. Let me just get... okay. Hi, everybody. Can you see my screen?
We can, it looks good.
Hello?
Yes, yeah, your screen is sharing fine.
Okay, great. Good afternoon. My deputation today is on the Quinte Isle Campground rezoning application and official plan amendment. And thank you very much for adding me to your agenda today. I have a few slides with some images, and I have all my text on my slides. I'm not sure if you can follow along from them, but I think you have my text also that was provided last week. Okay, so I have 2 points today. The first one is that a lot has changed in the world since 2012. Can everyone see the screen now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I'm just basically going to read off the screen. Since this development application was first submitted in 2012, we have a new council here. The world is a very different place in terms of what we understand about climate and about each other. And the values we hold now are not the same as even 5 years ago. I believe a lot of us are on this new journey of understanding about land, and our official plan here and the decisions that we make on this land and for our communities should reflect that. There's still time to infuse these new ideas around justice and climate into our discussion around our official plan updates and Quinte Isle Campground's rezoning applications. And this is a decision, as you all know, that will affect future decisions for the next 25 years, and it needs to be very carefully considered. And it's time to, I think, recognize that we made a mistake allowing this application to stand for so long. And I think it's time to take it off the table. So here are some of the images that I think you all know. Seeing the campground as it is now, and then seeing the new development site there imposed on a Google Earth aerial. I just thought it was interesting to see their decisions on their land use planning designs, and just asking the question about, is this something that we want to see happening more in the county? My second point is about Indigenous consultation. We are committed to our obligations under Truth and Reconciliation. And as Canadians, we have a moral duty to include Indigenous consultation in this decision process for Quinte Isle Campground. Because of this, Quinte Isle Campground's application is incomplete. As far as I know, nothing has been done in this process so far to ask for Indigenous input. And I'm here today to ask you why. This area along the South Shore is part of the oldest settled landscape in Upper Canada and was home to many Indigenous people long before settlers colonized it. Given this history, I think it's our duty to consult Indigenous peoples on planning matters. And I have a source point below that I'll share with you later. So I'm wondering, has the municipality consulted with Indigenous peoples on this project application? And if not, why not? Has the developer contacted, consulted, or interviewed Indigenous peoples in any heritage study needed and undertaken for this project application? If not, why not? I'm asking these questions as a concerned citizen of Prince Edward County, a local Hillier resident, and as a land-based practitioner and registered landscape architect. I understand that it is our duty as well as our moral obligation to consult and consider Indigenous perspectives on cultural and natural heritage. This Quinte Isle Campground project application involves both of these, and I'm reminding Council of this application. And because of this, this application is not complete. This is, just for your reference, is the reference in the new provincial policy statement of 2020 that states on page 13 that planning authorities shall engage with Indigenous communities and coordinate on land use planning matters. Thank you. And I guess my question is on the table now for discussion here.
Thank you very much, Victoria, for the deputation. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Councillor Forrester.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I did receive an email, I think it looks like the rest of the council did, this morning or yesterday from the wards stating that they had tried to set up several meetings, and I believe they were meeting them today. But the first two meetings were canceled, so there is consultation with the Mohawks. I don't know if that answered your question or if you were aware of that.
And is that going to be added to this application requirement that council will take on for Quinte Isle?
Can you
Will
repeat?
it be added to their applicant requirements?
I would presume that any information coming out of that would end up as part of the staff's file before it comes to council. Councillor Roberts.
Yes, Victoria, I think what the Athol councillor is referring to are certain dates. And the first meeting of Quinte Isle with the Mohawks, the Bay of Quinte, was actually scheduled for March 2020, but it was canceled because of COVID-19. It was then rescheduled to June of 2020, but canceled because a member of the Mohawks, the Bay of Quinte, was not available and the day was booked. And it has been rescheduled for a third time in terms of October 29th. And throughout the process, the Ward family and Quinte Isle have been keeping Mohawks, the Bay of Quinte, up to date with email exchanges, etc. But I would caution all of us that I'm concerned that we may from time to time be abusing the true spirit of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, both its findings and its spirit, when we invoke Indigenous interests uniquely on matters that non-Indigenous folks want to achieve for themselves. And somehow, don't pay very close attention to the things that Indigenous people want for Indigenous people. so I just caution us on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Seeing none, I'll thank you, Victoria, for your deputation, and I'll ask for a mover and seconder to receive Victoria's deputation. Councillor Margetson and Councillor McNaughton.
This is a Margetson-McNaughton motion that the deputation by Victoria Taylor regarding Quinte's Isle Campark, Fourward Holdings, rezoning and official plan amendment be received.
Thank you. All in favor? And that carries. Thank you. So that ends the deputations and moves us to item 5, comments from the audience. I can advise committee that we have 9 comments from the audience scheduled for this afternoon. So we're going to try to get them through as quickly as we can under our 30-minute limit, right? First up is Deborah Marshall, Executive Director of Friends of the South Shore. Is Deborah on the line? Still joining. Hello, Deborah. Can you hear us? Hello, Deborah?
Okay.
Hello, Deborah. You're there then. Can I just ask you to be sure to pause your YouTube because it causes feedback? Can you hear us now, Deborah?
Hello.
Yes, hello, Deborah. Are you ready to go? Have you got your YouTube paused?
Okay. I'm trying to do that right now. I think I've done it.
Yes,
Just
it
a
sounds
second.
good. It sounds good from our end. So just a reminder, you have 3 minutes.
Yep. It's on pause.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I had registered today to speak to actually 2 of the items on the agenda. The first one I'd like to address is Halfmoon Point residential and resort development. I was sincerely hoping that this application would be coming in under the new official plan because it provides some clear direction for development. I'd also like to emphasize that this subdivision and commercial development will be locating in an extremely important birding area. And as such, I would hope that consideration in the design process would include bird-friendly initiatives. And it was also, I guess, with many of the proposed developments within our community, the impact on our wetlands, shorelines, marine and natural habitats are of great concern. Now, it was my understanding when I was reading through the official plan that to make an application for amendment to the official plan, one had to own the land. Now, today I believe I heard that the land is not yet owned by the developer. Could someone clarify that for me? And my final statement is I look forward to seeing more detailed information on the plans for the development, including the consultation strategies for both local and Indigenous communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Were you also going to speak on Quinte's Isle? That's the information I have.
Yes, I was. So I can do that now? Do you want me to do that now?
Yes, carry on, please.
Okay. Well, I'm putting a different hat on. I'm speaking as the Executive Director of Friends of South Shore. It's a local citizens group working to keep Prince Edward County a special place, rural, natural, and wild. We're a member group of the SSJI, and we collaborate with citizens and farmers to conserve, protect, and enhance the ecological system that sustains us. I wish to commend and support the comments made by Ms. Taylor in her deputation regarding the QIC Fourward Holdings application, and ask Council to uphold the municipality's duty to consult the Indigenous peoples on this project application. This point was also made clear at a PHAC meeting October 15th. The proponent's heritage consultant did not consult with the Indigenous communities as part of the heritage study, so it never came forward to the public. At this time, it's clear that the application for the QIC project is not complete and should be withdrawn, as there has been none of that consultation. I just heard about today that there is actually some today. Council recently made a decision to decline the Fix and Terminals application to amend the official plan to rezone rural land to industrial. Following discussion by councilors, it was determined that the project was not in keeping with the county's vision of a unique and special place. A consultation with the Mohawks of the Bay of Quinte was a factor in council's decision, and the same rules should apply to QIC, which also requires an amendment to the official plan. In June and August of 2018, FOSS specifically asked planning staff and the county to consult with Indigenous peoples on this application. To date, the municipality has still not reached out for comment. All professional planners have both an ethical and legal duty to consult with Indigenous peoples. In addition to the Planner's Code of Practice, the Provincial Policy Statement 2020 makes this a duty to consult, a legal obligation. And I would echo Ms. Taylor's statement that it's time to take this incomplete application off the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. I'll ask committee if anyone has questions for you just before you leave. Seeing no questions, thank you very much for your comment. That will move us on now to Cheryl Anderson speaking to item 4.1.
Good afternoon.
Hi,
Mr.
Cheryl.
Chairman, Mayor, and councilors.
Hi, Cheryl.
My name is...
Just a moment before we start, just a reminder, your YouTube is off, I hope, and you have...
Yes, it is.
And you have 3 minutes.
My name is Cheryl Anderson. I'm speaking today on behalf of the South Shore Joint Initiative. My comments are in response to the presentation by Mr. Harari for the development at Halfmoon Point. The plan is for residential and resort development composed of 42 houses, a hotel, a health center, and spa, and 75 pods. This development is incompatible with the natural features of the area. It is in the important bird and biodiversity area and in a natural core area in the draft official plan. Prince Edward Point Bird Observatory annual surveys have documented eastern whippoorwill, a species at risk in the threatened category in the area since 2016. The surrounding cliffs are cliff swallow, barn swallow, ruffed-winged swallow, and bald eagle foraging habitat. 15 species of warbler have been documented using the area, including the Canada warbler, classified as threatened on the federal and Ontario species at risk list. The wetland and pond are documented Blandings turtle habitat, and the pond is a documented Blandings overwintering site. As many as 20 Blandings turtles have been seen from the road with binoculars in and around the pond on one occasion in the fall. Blandings turtles are classified as endangered federally and threatened provincially. I believe this is a blatant attempt to quickly get your approval before the new official plan comes into force. The development is in a draft natural core area. In the new official plan, page 16, new development applications on a property that includes or is adjacent to a natural heritage feature and area identified in the plan or in the zoning bylaw shall generally be accompanied by an environmental impact study that will ensure that the natural heritage feature and area and its associated ecological functions are protected from any negative impact related to the proposed development. In the new plan, the county has recognized its unique ecology and established an objective on page 20 to maintain, restore, and enhance the health and biodiversity of the county's natural heritage features and their associated ecological function and protect them from incompatible development. I believe this development is against the spirit and policies of the new official plan. I believe that an environmental impact study of the development would prove that siting of this development in species at risk habitat in an important bird and biodiversity area and in a draft natural core area would prove the development incompatible with the area's ecological functions. I urge you to deny the application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cheryl. Are there any questions from the committee for Cheryl Anderson? Seeing none, okay, thank you again for your comments. We will move on to the next commenter, Catalina, which is Jerry Jenkinson. Jerry Jenkinson is also speaking on 4.1. Jerry, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Here I am.
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, just ensure that your YouTube is off and you can go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
I had turned the phone off YouTube, but now I've closed the volume off YouTube, but now I've closed it.
Perfect.
So there we are.
Good. Sounds good.
May
Go
I
ahead.
proceed?
Please.
Okay. My name is Jerry Jenkinson, and I'm a member of the PEC Field Naturalist Executive. Thank you, Your Worship, Chair, and members of Council for this opportunity to present the PECFM view of the proposed project at Halfmoon Bay. Protecting the county's natural heritage and natural core areas from developments such as the Bel Air Resort is exactly why the county is enacting our new official plan. This project proposes the direct opposite of the county's vision for our future. We must protect the last remaining natural heritage on the north shore of Lake Ontario for residents and visitors and as critical wildlife habitat. What will be left if we allow developments such as the Bel Air Resort to proceed? To recap, this proposed development completely transforms a natural core area, no mitigation possible, replacing it with a hotel, reception of 4 service buildings, a health center and 3 spas, 42 houses, 21 of them along the water, and 75 vacation pods, with all the associated parking lots and driveways, and with 2 miles of access roads and a shoreline park and trail 10 meters wide and a 75 square meter septic field. As part of the important bird and biodiversity area, this site is the path for migrating birds following the lakeshore from Prince Edward Point. These tiny, fragile, and defenseless creatures depend on the trees, shrubs, and wetland for feeding and resting after their long journey across Lake Ontario. Further, the existing pond and wetlands are nesting habitat for Blanding's turtle, whippoorwill, and many other species at risk. Please protect the county's natural heritage now and for the future. This project should not go any further. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jerry. I'll ask the committee if they have any questions for you after your comments. And I see none. So again, thank you very much for your comments. That will move us, Catalina, to Gord Gibbons, I believe. Gord is also speaking on 4.1.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
So,
Okay. I didn't realize I had to mute myself. I thought you did it.
That's great. Hi, Gord. It's you have your YouTube off and we can hear you well, so please proceed. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, councilors, staff, and members of the public. My name is Gord Gibbons, and I'm a long-term resident of South Marysburg who has been active in environmental, heritage, and human health issues affecting Prince Edward residents. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on deputation under section 4.1. First, I'd like to point out that a similar proposal for this property was presented at a special meeting of council on August 14, 2008. The proposed development was called Port Royal and presented by former Mayor Jim Taylor. This project was opposed by a large group of over 300 people, and I believe the concerns they had included: the land included environmentally protected wetlands and ponds. The cliffs contain bald eagle nests, which are still there, and eagles have been observed by my family in the summer of 2020. Fractures of the limestone bedrock would result in leaching into Prince Edward Bay. The damage and cost to county roads, the need for independent water treatment and sewage systems that the county feared it would get stuck running, and I'm sure many other environmental concerns. It is my understanding that the opposition group had the support of the then MPP. It's also my understanding that, to his credit, Jim Taylor and his investors abandoned the project, and Jim lived on to oppose the industrialization of the natural heritage of South Marysburg. Jim has been honored for his many contributions to Prince Edward County in section 6.5 today. So let's look at the area today. The land is part of the South Shore Important Bird Area. The land is currently zoned RU3, which I believe does not permit such development. The land is classified as a natural core area in the proposed new official plan, which would prohibit any such development. The land is part of the area the South Shore Joint Initiative and other groups are trying to protect. At the inaugural meeting of the South Shore Joint Initiative, all levels of government, federal, provincial, and municipal, pointed strong support for SSJI, and indeed, significant processes occurred in the last 2 years, including the recent support for conservation reserves and purchase and donation of lands for protecting and conserving the South Shore IBA. Recognition by province of the need to protect other endangered species in this area, such as Blanding's turtle. The ERT decision of the WPD White Pines case ruled that the project was a threat to the Blanding's turtle and removed 18 industrial wind turbines from the project, including the 3 near the subject land. Likely all the concerns expressed in 2008 would still be valid. It seems clear that the required upgrading to infrastructure in South Marysburg would have a negative impact on the natural environment. In conclusion, there would be major opposition to this project, as one would expect on any industrialization proposed for the South Shore IBA. One would expect council to oppose it with the full support of the provincial and federal governments. Hopefully, the developer will abandon this location and look for a more suitable location. In a perfect world, the current owner, who I understand is not the developer, could donate the land for a sizable tax advantage and support the preservation of the South Shore IBA. If the application proceeds, I would urge council to provide no advance conditional approval and deny the application. I can tell both the council and the mayor that this project is not wanted by local residents and many others. given what the proponent said today, he should be encouraged to drop the project because it's not wanted in Prince Edward County. Thank you.
Thank you, Gord. Does the committee have any questions for Mr. Gibbons? Seeing none, again, thank you very much for your comments. Catalina, that brings us to Sandy Latchford, who's going to speak on item 6.4.
Yes, I'm here. Ready?
Hi, Sandy. We're ready to go. Make sure you have your YouTube muted, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much for having me here today. I'm here to speak about the report brought forward from the Cemetery Advisory Committee. Now, I'm going to remind you that if you've dug yourself in a deep hole, the first thing you should do is quit digging. And that's going to be appropriate since I'm talking about cemeteries, but this report is going to provide you with how to stop digging and how to get yourself out of the hole. The 4 recommendations that you have in this report. The first one that I want to talk about is the cemetery price list. This price list has been revised and will now be able to return money to you in the sense that you will not lose any money on the services that you provide. This will be varying in turn any other services that the cemeteries that the municipality manages will now break even or more. In the past, you were losing money on the prices that you were charging, so this is going to be how you're going to stop digging any further into the hole. The bylaw that is being proposed is going to bring you up to compliance with the provincial regulations for cemeteries. It will also provide opportunities for you to minimize maintenance needs as you go forward, involving the installation of monuments or guidelines and regulations there so that the monuments will be installed appropriately, therefore avoiding some of the maintenance problems that we face at Glenwood because they were installed many years ago and were not up to standard procedures. The third aspect of this is the installation of a columbarium at Sophiasburg. The columbarium is a very important tool in managing cemeteries because the consumers are looking at other ways of being interred. Cremation is now about 70% of what the consumer wishes, and they like above ground burials. So the columbarium is very popular and offers you an opportunity to offer different types of interment so that you can bring in money from that perspective. And in the report, we outline how that outlay of money will happen over the years with the columbarium. One thing to keep in mind is that you have to build the columbarium before you can sell any of the niches in it. It's not like buying a condo on speculation. The provincial requirements mean that you have to have the columbarium there for use when you sell the niche in it. So you have to spend the money up front, and then you can sell the columbarium niches over time. The other recommendation is a procedural one to make sure everything is logged with the BAO and that we are following provincial regulations. So this is a really well-written report. I'm very pleased that the staff has taken this on and summarized very clearly the issues that are surrounding the cemeteries. They are an asset, I think, and that we can make them perform better for you as an asset, and I'm hoping that you will see the wisdom of following through with these recommendations. Our plan of action going forward, if this is successful, is that the committee will work with staff to come back with other recommendations that will be very helpful for you as a municipality to manage cemeteries in a more proactive and hopefully get you up to our goal is break even at the minimum so that that will be the goal for us going forward. Do you have any, I'm not sure if you can ask me questions, but.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sandy. Yes, the committee can ask questions. And I see Councillor Harper has a question.
Thank you, Sandy. I too think it's a great report, so kudos to the staff on that. We'll be talking about it a bit later, but I would be interested in just having you comment on, one of the issues that we raised, which is the pioneer cemeteries. If there maybe just a little expansion of your thoughts about that. I remember a reason I say that is because a couple of years ago when I guess it would be a year and a half ago when we got started on this, I think you used the language that you looked at this as a runaway train, where we're at with this thing. So the reason that we need to get things under control and maybe the contributing factor of pioneer cemeteries to that runaway train would be helpful just to hear at this point. Thanks.
I had the difficulty a bit hearing you, but I didn't hear a question in there, but you're right, Councillor Harper. We are going to have to get this under control going forward, and we have several things that we're looking at to help that happen very quickly.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't very able to get the point across. So the question was about just commenting on the pioneer cemeteries. You didn't mention that in your talk, but just it would be helpful to hear from you on that point.
The pioneer cemeteries don't have any lots that can be sold, so that you don't have that as a source of income to help you offset the cost. However, there are ways to manage those cemeteries that will be less costly, and so that's what we're looking at for the pioneer cemeteries where there are no burials taking place and no lots to be sold. 8 of their cemeteries, though, are active. They have lots of room. Some of them, Sabiasburg is the example. It has lots of room for us to sell plots and attract customers to use that cemetery. The other cemeteries also have room. So we need to work on that and get the sales going there. And also there are families that like to donate to the cemeteries because they see that their families are buried there and they want to see them kept neatly. The pioneer cemeteries are an issue that we will look at on how we can get best practices in managing those so that they are kept neat and tidy and are there for the public to see where their family is buried, but that it's not costing us a fortune to do that.
Good, thank you. Is there any other questions for Sandy? If not, good. Thank you very much, Sandy, for great comments for us.
Thank you.
That will bring us now to Helma Unk, also on item 6.4.
Hello, Helma speaking. I hope you can all hear me.
Yes, just a reminder, Helma, you have 3 minutes.
Yes, sorry, I kind of looked in a little bit late. I agree with all the suggestions, the report, and I will support everything.
Well, that's great. Does the committee have any questions for Helma since we have her on the line? Mayor Ferguson.
Hi, Helma. Thanks for appearing today. Perhaps you could provide a bit of just background about what you do for the cemetery.
A little bit of background on what? Sorry, I didn't hear
on
your question.
your role in the cemeteries.
In the role in the cemeteries?
Yeah.
My role is to be the contact person for people if they want to buy a grave. So, and meet with them at the cemeteries, do the required paperwork required by the Funeral Burial Cremation Services Act. So we're all in compliance. And I meet with them and I do the paperwork for burials and locate the grave excavating for the burials and submit the payment to the municipality.
Yeah, I just wanted to make it clear to council what you do for the cemetery. It's a very important role. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Roberts has a question.
Yeah, Helma, it's good to see you again. Bill Roberts, how are you doing? Just doing a little customer testimonial since we have you, that you do a great job on all those arrangements, and thank you very much.
Thank you. I love what I do. It's a weird passion, but it is.
Well, that's great to hear. Somebody has to do it, don't they? Seeing no further questions, thank you very much, Helma, for participating today. That brings us to our next commenter, which is Gary Mooney, speaking on item 6.1, the Rural Broadband Report.
Hello, you can see me?
We can hear you, Gary.
Okay.
Despite your bad internet.
Yes. Well, you'll find out about that in a moment.
Just a reminder, you have 3 minutes.
Yes, I pushed the button for video, but in any case, it's the words that are important. I'm Gary Mooney, and will speak on the problems of rural internet service, and specifically our experience with ExploreNet. Every summer for the past 3 years, ExploreNet service from the Consacon water tower has degraded to a very poor level due to the extra load from seasonal residents. We have a 5 megabit per second contract, but typically get only 1 or 2 megabits for 18 hours a day, May through September. Compare this to 50 megabits advertised by wired providers. Despite my pushing them many times over 3 years, ExploreNet has refused to upgrade its bandwidth to solve the summer problem. They take our money while delivering terrible service for 5 months of the year. We would change providers, but where we're located, ExploreNet from Consacon is our only option. I've lodged complaints with the Commission for Complaints for Telecom Television Services and with EORN, and have talked to the CRTC. None of them will take any action as long as ExploreNet provides a download speed greater than 0. Now, I'm serious about that. Our situation is that of one family only, but 2/3 of county residents are in rural areas with access to wireless service only, and many of them have similar problems or can't get access at all. Many posts to Facebook bear this out. In my view, this is the major challenge regarding internet in the county. By contrast, wired service in the settlement areas already provides good download speeds. There is a serious side effect of poor rural service. Because good broadband speeds are now important to every family and business, the marketability of rural homes with poor internet service is being adversely affected. I have a letter from Treat Hall stating, as a buyer's representative, I recommend to my clients that they ignore altogether properties in areas of the county which are poorly served in terms of speed and bandwidth. There is a possible solution. SpaceX's Starlink service, intended primarily for rural areas, should be available in 2021 to everyone in the county with a view of the northern sky. Its low Earth orbit satellites will provide a download speed of 50 megabits per second or more with low latency, thereby avoiding the limitations of traditional satellite service and competing directly with wired service. Given that 2/3 of county residents are in rural areas with access to wireless service only, I'd suggest that improving service to these residents be the county's focus. Starlink would provide an immediate, non-subsidized solution, which will save years of delay in implementation and much taxpayer money. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Gary. Does the committee have any questions for Gary? Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Gary, I think you know that I'm very sympathetic to your position about things like EORN. When you decided to lead with Elon Musk and SpaceX, did you look at any other low Earth orbit options? I know that Amazon's Jeff Bezos and our own Telesat have rural internet options up there. And did you look at any of the work that's been done in New Brunswick, rural New Brunswick, where they've got, I think they've got a deal going with Telesat?
No, I haven't. And the reason being that SpaceLink is very far along, and in fact, they're about to open up public beta testing in our area, well, in Canada as well as northern US. I've signed up to become a beta tester, haven't heard back, but given that they've got almost 1,000 satellites up now, and they're talking about a rollout in 2021, that's good enough for me.
Okay, I'll just mention that I think the Telesat beta is up in 2022, so thanks.
Good, thank you. If there's nothing else, then thanks, Gary, very much for your comments. That will move us to Ken Campbell speaking on item 6.2. Hello, Mr. Campbell. Can you hear us? Thanks, Gary, very much for your comments.
Hello? Yeah, let's turn the volume up here. Just a moment, please.
Hello, Mr. Campbell.
Janice is helping me turn the volume up. I can't hear you.
Can you hear us now, Mr. Campbell?
There we are. I'm live, Mr. Mayor and Council. Thanks for hearing me.
Okay, you have 3 minutes, and just please be sure that your YouTube is off so we don't get the feedback. Thank you. 3 minutes.
Okay. I'm here to tell you I do not support backyard hens. Your survey did not allow for a negative input. I have 2 rural residential properties as neighbors who have allowed their chickens to roam on my property. I have made complaints and have yet to receive a response or acknowledgement of action from the county. Perhaps the reporting of complaints is avoided because of the requirement to enforce the bylaw, as all bylaws are complaint-driven. All bylaws should be complaint-informed, investigation-driven, and concluded with information to the complainant as to the disposition. If not, the bylaw should not exist, as it has no meaning or value and only pits neighbors against neighbors rather than accountability to the bylaw established by the county. This chicken bylaw will result in neighbor disputes and lacks of factual research to support the value of backyard hens. Please reference the Worm and Germs blog, Backyard Poultry Salmonella Update, the 21st of October 2020 by Dr. Veterinary Medicine Scott Weiss of the University of Guelph. States, risk of salmonella from chickens exists. People at risk are children under 5 years of age and 5 years, adults over 65 years, pregnant women, people with compromised immune systems, and neighbors are included, as well as kids' play areas. Can we, the county, handle this risk? Should check with the health unit. Please also check the Ministry of Agricultural, Food and Rural Affairs regarding rodent control in livestock and poultry facilities. Rodents can carry at least 45 diseases, including salmonella, and the survey in Ontario includes 80% of poultry facilities have rodent problems. Rodents will be attracted to backyard hens and possibly infest neighbors' properties as well as their own residents. Also check Protection of Livestock and Poultry and Dogs Act 1990. This is a need for all of you, as it gives rights to a backyard hen owner to kill any dog found worrying or pursuing or killing their chickens. This is a provincial act and identifies responsibilities and costs to the municipality. This is very important because if dog owners feed their domestic dogs raw chicken meat or chicken feet that are currently sold as a treat in pet stores, the dog may react as its hereditary predator and possibly pursue and kill neighbors' chickens. Think of a licensed $2,000 valued dog that is killed because of an unlicensed $11 chicken. Great neighbors, relations, and approved by the county. That's all I have to say. I'm opposed to it, and thank you for your time. I'm open for questions.
Thank you very much, Ken. Does the committee have any questions for Mr. Campbell? Seeing none, I will thank you once again for your comments. And finally, we have Councillor Prinzen is going to read us a letter from a constituent. Councillor Prinzen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This comes from a resident of Bloomfield, a broiler producer, as well as my uncle, who has asked me to read it since he couldn't attend today. So it goes. Good afternoon. Unfortunately, I'm unable to participate in today's discussion. However, I'm presenting my views and thoughts on backyard hens. I've been a broiler producer for the last 17 years, and I feel that allowing the hens in the villages, towns, and large hamlets should not be permitted, as it raises many concerns. Hens encourage rodents and predator animals, odor from the hens, and the surrounding neighbors in which this will affect. I have no objection to people in the countryside having a limited number of hens. However, how does the county plan to monitor this? Is the county only allowing full-grown hens to be purchased? Raising chicks is not a simple task, requiring power to the enclosures for heat and water, the proper bedding materials, and how do they plan to dispose of the manure and dead chickens? They need to be aware of the needs of the hens, and that they take approximately 19 weeks to raise a hen for laying eggs, and egg reduction occurs during the colder months. In farm news release areas, in a farm news release, areas that allowed backyard hens saw an increase in hospital visits from children from handling the hens like they would a cat or a dog, and the children becoming quite ill. There's a huge concern for avian virus, which is transmitted by wild birds and can spread very quickly if unchecked. There are approximately 10 broiler producers in Prince Edward County, and they are all required to monitor water quality, feed, air, bedding, temperature, ammonia, and mortalities, with audits occurring on a yearly basis. Who will monitor the backyard hens? In conclusion, I'm not against hens as long as it's out in the country, and the county is prepared to have a registry for the residents wanting to have hens to enable tracking in the event of an avian virus outbreak, which has already occurred in Ontario on more than one occasion. I appreciate your time. Sincerely, Dick Prinzen.
Thank you, Phil. I'm going to suggest that any questions with respect to that we can do as we do the agenda item, unless somebody has something specific right now.
Sounds good.
Good. Thank you. So could I have somebody move that we receive all of the comments from the audience? Councillor Maynard, seconded by Councillor Prinzen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That the comments from the audience be received.
All in favor? Thank you. That's carried. That will then bring us to items for consideration. Item number 6.1 is report of the Community Services Programs and Initiatives Department, dated October 29th, regarding the 2020 Rural Broadband Report. Could I have somebody put this on the floor? Councillor Nyman, seconded by Councillor Roberts.
It's a Nyman Roberts motion that Council receive report CSP 52/2020 for information, that Council direct the CAO staff to coordinate a streamlined process to remove fees as part of the 2021 fees and charges review for routine permissions, to support the implementation of proposed broadband expansion projects to be in place by Q1 2021, and that Council directs staff to issue a RFP to explore options and inform a broadband strategic plan and report back to Council on its findings. Council also direct that the cost of such a study, up to $75,000, be paid from the reserve for modernization.
Thank you. Discussion, questions? Nobody? Well, I have a question. I'm looking at the part of the report that kind of outlines sort of the past efforts that EORN has made. And if I understand it, sort of the first chunk of money that we put towards EORN went towards broadband development. The last few years, the money we've been putting towards EORN has been for cell coverage. EORN's latest project, as they described to us just a few weeks ago, is to move to gigabyte service, which feels to me too much like they've abandoned the 50-10 plan. And as I mentioned at that time when we had the deputation, 50 megabytes per second is a dream for 99% of us in the county. Councillor McMahon has probably the average, more like 4, and that's what's in the report. I'm one of the lucky ones. I get to point at Bell's new wireless tower and get 25 MIPS. The mayor has now been fortunate enough to get that too, but many, many people are way down on the list, and the report indicates that. So I'm hoping that staff can tell me that the investment we make here is going to be to help that middle range, nothing to do with gigabytes per second, but to get decent internet in the homes of the vast majority of the county. CEO.
Through the chair to the whole council and to Councillor Hirsch. So you're correct about the characterization of where the EORN projects have been to date. I would say that it's not so much that they have abandoned 50-10, but they are concerned that a pitch to do 50-10 by the time it gets built out will have been leapfrogged by the next thing we need. So they're trying to do this on a generational lens and bring everyone up to a standard that won't be out of date by the time it gets fully rolled out across Eastern Ontario. I would also say that as the report tries to outline, we have not committed to anything to EORN for the third phase. None of the Eastern municipalities are, because unless they secure the federal and provincial money, this isn't going forward. So they are working on securing federal and provincial commitments, and then it will come back to council in terms of our portion of what that looks like. I would position this report and the research staff have done to get us here as trying to recognize that there's a lot of plays out there. There's active projects that are ready to move forward quickly. There are other projects that are seeking funding that is in the very near term. And then there's large, long-term projects like the EORN gig project. So we're trying to position the county to be more nimble and supportive of whatever we can get as fast as we can get across the county, and at the same time the RFP is to help us understand this landscape and figure out where future capital dollars should be going, and to better inform council's choices when and if the EORN project is successful in getting federal and provincial funding. We understand how that play fits in with what may or may not be occurring in the county before then. So it's to give us some more strategic direction, as well as make us a more effective partner for those that have a market chance to move forward in the short term.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Councillor Margetson.
Yeah, I think maybe this is a simple question, but I'm just asking about the fees, the removal of fees, and maybe we had this in an earlier report. I can't remember, or I should remember, let's put it that way. Can you just give me a brief overview of what fees we will be forgiving and what's the magnitude we're talking about?
Right. So through the chair to Councillor Margetson, in the previous report that came forward in the summer, we contemplated some kind of application process by which people could express interest and therefore have their fees released. In doing the work to figure out what fees we're talking about and the magnitude, to your your point. It became obvious that a more practical and common way in other municipalities is you just forgive the fees across the board for this type of activity, and you don't create a process by which you can exempt yourself. We have done some preliminary work related to the magnitude. For example, cost to join towers. You know, we only have about 9 different places that people connect to today. So we don't have a very robust business here in terms of the amount of money. We don't have that number quantified, but it will be part of the fees and charges report that comes to council at budget. So right now we're seeking support for the idea of waiving fees for this type of activity. We see it as a nominal, we probably spend more money in staff time to secure the fee than the actual revenue.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, we'll call a vote. All in favor? Thank you. That carries. That will bring us to item 6.2, report of the Development Services Department dated October 29th, 2020 regarding expanding permissions for backyard hens in urban areas and rural residential zones. And who would like to put this on the floor? Councillor McNaughton and Councillor McMahon seconding.
Thank you. This is the McNaughton-McMahon motion that Council receive report DS 148 2020 for information. That zoning amendment file number Z61-20 backyard hens come forward to a future council meeting for decision. So,
thank you. And would you like to speak to the motion?
thank you. Well, the concerns that we just heard, I think, are valid concerns, and I wanted to address those. And I also would have a question for regarding the public consultation, which I don't recall the details of. So first, the concerns. So one of the ideas here is to bring existing backyard flocks into compliance so that you don't have as many problems with neighbors. There are very few cases where bylaw have been called. So we've had almost no complaints. I don't remember what the number was, but it pales in comparison to complaints about dogs. But we do have existing flocks in urban areas, and the idea is to make this, is to create the regulations to make sure that everyone understands a little bit more about how to keep their hens safe and how to keep their neighbors safe and how to keep their flocks from wandering onto neighbors' properties, and how to make sure that their waste products are dealt with properly, so that we can bring those flocks into compliance in a way that is much more palatable for urban areas. The concern I have about the consultation is, and I really can't recall, and perhaps staff could answer, is did it not give an opportunity for people to express direct concern? I thought it did, but I'm not clear.
Through the chair, yes. So there was, we did multi-level consultation. There was consultation on Have Your Say. There was an ad in the newspaper welcoming comments to staff. We put a survey out in all of the public libraries as well as Shire Hall, as well as that survey, and a comment board was available online. The survey had a lot of questions that if there was an opportunity for them to say no, they did not want backyard chickens on any residential properties, or yes, they did in the rural area or in the urban area, as well as there was, the last question was an essay question in which anyone could put their thoughts forward.
Okay, so there was a full opportunity for comment of any range of responses.
Through the chair, that's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak? Councillor Margetson.
I just wanted to, from my knowledge of reading the report, the comment we received from the audience today regarding chickens going on to adjacent properties. This bylaw confines them to a run, first of all, so that shouldn't be an issue, and that should keep the dogs at bay too, that he was talking about, and major predators. So I think, and you're not allowed to keep very much manure. I forget how much it was, 2.8 cubic feet or something, which isn't very much. So I think the staff report and the bylaw speak to the potential negative issues, and hopefully they can be overcome. The health issues that were brought up by Mr. Prinzen, and I think there was someone else that said something about handling hens or eggs, and they were not allowed to raise chicks either. So you had to have an adult bird when you started here, or at least 4 months old. So that takes away the issue of raising chicks. There is a potential health effect, though, if you're not careful. So I do acknowledge that, but hopefully people will be aware of what they're up to and take it seriously. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bailey.
I've got a concern that Councillor Prinzen brought up by way of his uncle's letter, which is to say, if there are avian diseases that come up because of people who don't know what they're doing, raising chickens, would that possibly affect the businesses? That is to say, that the folks who are raising chickens professionally, because if it happens in one area, is it going to spread to somewhere else? Again, it's just a concern. I don't know if anybody can answer that, but now that you brought it up, I'm really wondering if it would perhaps alter people's business, in which case we've got a problem. Just a comment.
Councillor McNaughton.
I can only sort of half try to address that. So one of the reasons that the coops would be enclosed would be to prevent birds from being attracted. So there are outbreaks of avian flu from time to time, and they do pose risks. I do believe that usually they come from wild birds interacting with commercial operations, which I think which has largely been dealt with by that industry by always keeping birds in covered barns. But I do believe the risk is probably quite minimal with backyard chickens when you've got covered coops that prevent wild birds from interacting with the hens. So the other aspect is the bylaw requires registration with an organization that provides education and also provides, I believe they provide notification of outbreaks so that people can take additional steps, which I thought was quite clever of the planners to include. And it's a free registration process that does not require additional burdens, so it doesn't affect affordability for the program. There are a lot of benefits to that inclusion, and one of them is the public education that comes along with it.
Thank you. I have Councillor Prinzen, then the mayor, and then Councillor Maynard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To James, I guess. As we are well aware, there are people now with chickens on properties. If this bylaw goes forth, how long are these people going to be allowed to have to get down to the legal number is one question, because I think the ones that do have it now probably have more. And is there, maybe I missed it, as I think you have been in touch with some people, obviously you've put a lot of time in this, but there's different size areas, lot sizes in the RU1, R2 zones and all that. I didn't see anywhere where, a property of 4 acres could have a few more hens, obviously. So I just wonder, was that to consideration, and to the compliance thing, and the avian flu obviously does have me worried. It's not just, I know chickens are raised in covered facilities for a reason, and I know it's not the birds maybe getting in with the chickens as much as it could be the person walking into the chicken coop, walking across our community center floor with manure and so on and so forth. So there's more than just people who know how to handle, but there's a reason those people maybe have birds. That's all I'm trying to get across.
Okay, thank you. Through the chair, to answer the first question, it would be as soon as the 20-day appeal period's up. So once the bylaw is enforced, in effect, that's when people should be in compliance with the bylaw. In question regarding rural residential lots, we have just sort of made a 10 hen, 30 square meter hen coop, hen run size limit for rural residential properties versus the 6 and the 10 meters squared for urban properties. This is just to, I understand that in the rural residential zones, there could exceed, typically we limit them at 2 acres or 0.8 hectares, but there are larger ones. But just for, to ensure that, we're not making limits and things like that, for conformity, we've limited at 10 hens for a rural residential lot. And as far as avian flu, I agree that could be a possibility. And in order to, there are ways in our municipal bylaw that we are trying to avoid this and avoid the spread, such as ensuring that the hen coops are cleanly and they are kept up in such a manner.
Thank you. Mayor, follow-up.
Yeah, just one follow-up, going back to cleanliness and stuff like this. Like, all jokes aside, but are we going to be training our bylaw officers on the cleanliness of a hen coop? And right now, a no parking sign is a no parking sign, So this is what's clean to you might not be clean to me.
Yep.
So it goes back to lawns and everything like that. So are we going to be, maybe it's not a question for you, maybe it's a question for our CAO. Are we going to be training our bylaw officers to have a distinction of what is a clean hen coop?
Madam CAO.
Through the chair to Councillor Prinzen, I think that is a fair point, and I would say that this is not the only area where we struggle with enforcement, and it kind of goes to the conversation we've been having about the number of bylaws this county has, and the job we're putting on our bylaw department, which is very small, to deliver on that. So we are, I would say, that's a good conversation for council to have in considering whether or not they think this is realistic. But we are putting this forward because our bylaw department believes that they could deliver on this. We will have to figure out how we would achieve that, but I take the point.
Mayor Ferguson.
I'm just, I think the report's really well done. Thank you. There should obviously be concern about any kind of infection, disease, given that we're going through COVID. But do we have any idea of the magnitude of, or the numbers of people that will take advantage of this? I know the responses are in the report, but do we have any other data about how many people actually go to the trouble of registering, creating the coop, the run, buying the chickens? That'll kind of guide how serious a problem we may have.
Through the chair, we have, other than the respondents and the positive response we received through our public consultation, we had around, I think, I'd want to say 100 positive respondents. So through those numbers, I would say 100, but again, it's hard to say, as I believe that there are many illegal chicken coops right now and backyard hens on urban residential properties and rural residential properties. So I don't know if it would have the effect of, more people coming and doing it, or just controlling those coops that are existing right now. So I think this will invite more coops, but I think it's also going to ensure that there is proper bylaw to put in force for the existing coops.
Okay, thank you.
I have Councillor Maynard next, followed by Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, James, for a well-written report. I think the data supports the recommendation. And you have an example of 9 other municipalities that are allowing this, so this is not necessarily groundbreaking. On the infectious disease question, I think that the registration and the education that will come from that will go a long ways to mitigating the risk. As with the care of any animal, there is going to be some risk, and we only have to look at cat litter as a potential risk that most people will accept that risk and know enough how to prevent disease that could be caused from that.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. James, a good report. Thank you. I'm just wondering if, to be prudent, what your advice would be in terms of perhaps going beyond the actual motion and bylaws before us. I'm thinking a little bit about the concerns that have been raised, but also about county liability. Would it be a good idea for us to make available some guidance to people with regard to their obligations and what's involved? Perhaps some helpful guidance with regard to dealing with things like smell and rodents and maintenance and vacation coverage and wildlife, those sorts of things.
Through the chair, I think that is a great idea. We do have some, on the Have Your Say webpage right now, we do have some attachments that just sort of go over backyard hens, OMAFRA fact sheets and things like that do sort of outline how to properly take care of backyard hens and those concerns raised regarding rodents and things of that nature. So, but I do think maybe, having a pamphlet or having those readily available at Shire Hall online and at the Edward Building would be a good idea.
Yeah, something that we raise the profile on. Yeah.
Thank you. Is there anyone else, or will we just take this to the vote? Councillor St. Jean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You knew I was going to speak, so. To be clear, my position has not changed. I'm not going to go into a long, passionate explanation as I did the last time. I'll save you that diatribe. To answer, I think, the mayor's question, there are 323 people who are members of the Facebook Backyard Chicken Group, if that helps you with that question. I'm sure you're a member, right, Councillor McNaughton? Yes, I thought I saw your name there. They haven't accepted my membership yet, just so you know. For some reason, I don't know why. So, my concerns, without getting into any great depth, are very much the same as Mr. Dick Prinzen's. Mr. Prinzen's farm is in an urban area. If there's any farm in our community that's at great risk of having avian flu as an issue or any other health issues related to his farm and his animals and his hens, his birds, is that one. So I have great concern with us allowing them in the settlement areas. I don't want to be the one to say when something bad happens that I told you so. I don't like to do that, and hopefully I never have to. So my opposition remains. I do not believe that this is a good thing for this community on a number of points. So I will not be supporting this now, and I will not be supporting it if it gets to council.
Thank you. If there's no one else, then I guess we'll take the vote. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Catalina, I only see 4. That would be 5 with me.
Wait a minute.
Councillor Bullock?
I'm voting in favor of this motion.
Thank you. That still takes us only to 6. Do we do hands again?
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
6. So Councillor Bolus in favor, that's still 7, that still loses. It's a tie.
So it ends up a 7-7 tie, which means the motion fails.
Yep.
Okay. That That moves us on to item 6.3. We're at 2 hours. Would we like to take a short break? 10 minutes, please.
Hey, who's not maintaining 2 meters distance there? Doesn't matter.
All right, everybody, it's been 10 minutes.
Could we reassemble, please, Committee of the Whole? Are we live?
We are live. We've been.
You going to proceed again, Council? This takes us to item 6.3, report of the Recreation and Community Facilities Department dated October 29th, 2020, regarding update on the condition of parks and playgrounds. Who would like to put this on the floor? Councillor Maynard, seconded by Councillor McMahon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That the report RFC 02-2020 of the Recreation Community Facilities Department be received for information. That staff return to council as part of the 2021 budget deliberations on a proposed multi-year plan for operation and capital improvements to address existing deficiencies.
Thank you. Discussion. Councillor Maynard.
I might as well start since I had the thing. First of all, I would like to say thank you for this long overdue report, and now we can work towards having a plan to address issues that have been let go for many years. I would hope that the report would include some prioritization based on the potential usage, the areas where equipment must be removed, and then the catch up on the maintenance or the operational part of the equation, to help extend the life cycle of existing equipment where possible. And just as an aside, the playgrounds that received the 2020 upgrades also be considered in that revitalization of park plans, because now we're not talking just about equipment, but we're talking about the entire revitalization of parks. And we know that play equipment needs to work in concert with the entire park or green space area.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? I do have a comment to make, and this is on the financial side of things. I gather that the outcome of this is likely there will be an ask in the 2021 budget, and that's why staff is putting it before us before we go into budget. So I'd like to reduce that amount that will be asked for by $4,000. The report mentions Milford Park requiring $4,000 worth of repairs and upgrades in respect of recreational equipment. And I'll read for you a motion which was carried unanimously by the South Marysburg Recreation Board just the other day, that the board will reimburse the County Prince Edward for the cost to upgrade the playground at Milford Fairgrounds in 2021 up to the estimated $4,000. And the reason for that is that the South Marysburg Rec Board, I suspect like other recreation committees in the county, have been unable to really spend their funds over the last 9 months or so due to COVID. And so the Rec Board felt that it would be useful for it having significant funds in the bank to actually return $4,000 to be used for this purpose. So we'll provide that information to Amanda, and she can adjust the ask accordingly. We just need to know where to send the check, Marcia. Anyone else? Councillor St. Jean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Lisa, for this comprehensive report. And I concur with Councillor Maynard, long overdue, and I very much look forward to long-range planning with all of our, not just our parks equipment and park playgrounds, but a lot of other things. Asset management plan, right? My question, through you, Mr. Chairman, and I would believe it would go to our CAO, with regards to all of the consents that we get, that typically there are funds transferred in lieu of parkland and go into the parkland reserve, $1,500 per consent. I think we're all familiar with that. I would suspect that even after 1 year, that money piles up pretty quickly. I look forward to seeing the reserve balance come budget time. But can you maybe explain to us and likely others that are watching what the restrictions are on those funds, and can they be used to revitalize our existing parks?
Madam CEO.
Through the chair to Councillor St. Jean. So I'm not 100% sure whether or not they are restricted to a particular fund. I know the building code charges have to be kept in a special fund in order to pay for future enforcement. So building permits go into a special fund. I think Parkland is determined depending on the way each municipality sets it up. So I will take that question back, and we certainly will come back with budget to talk about what we have collected and where that fits in terms of how we use that money and how that would apply to any budget asks in this category.
Follow up, please.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. Because as I say, my biggest concern is the fact that we are amassing a reserve of funds that we can't really use to the greatest extent. And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me to keep adding to assets. And if the restriction is mainly to develop new parks, when we really don't need them, like, you know, we're currently going through an assessment of all of our properties, including parklands, and whether or not some should be disposed of or whatever. So I thank you for that, and I look forward to seeing greater detail, and I certainly would support, if it's within our power, some changes that we can make to access that funding to support the ones we have, let alone developing ones that we may not need at this point. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson, and then Councillor Harper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I'm referring to the overview of Benson Park, and as the report notes, and it's a very good report. Way to go. The issue of security, given the vandalism that occurred a couple of months ago, is noted and should be of concern. I'm wondering about consideration for security of the Benson Hall structure itself. Is that part of that, what you are going through concerning the entire security matter?
Through the chair to Mayor Ferguson, the initial implementation of video surveillance was a fairly quick response to the immediate vandalism and the third attempt of arson. As we get working on the plan, the OPP are going to be a part of our entire process, and so that security assessment of the entire property will involve a full comprehensive safety approach to how we're going to be looking at that. So I do suspect that there will be some alterations based on that security assessment. And if I could say, the staff, the whole department, are really excited to have this opportunity to work on our 23 parks with playgrounds, to be able to determine the purpose of each park for the community, how it's getting used, what it's used for. So for example, when you look at Consicon, does Consicon actually have enough electrical for the types of things that they're trying to do, and really doing a proper use with a comprehensive repairs and maintenance plan. And I think that we're going to see a real different look and use of the parks. And I have these dollars listed, and I do appreciate, Councillor Hirsch, your offering, and already we have a very supportive community, and some of the funds have already been secured for some of the projects as well. And this is kind of the worst case scenario, but we will at every case be looking to have the funds come from somewhere else besides the county.
Quick follow-up.
Sure.
Okay, I'm glad that the OPP is involved, because the park has been the subject of conversation in the past couple of days because of large gatherings. So, okay, look forward to getting that report. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, and thank you, Lisa. Councillor Harper.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. And Lisa, you may have started to answer my question. I guess my thought on all this is, first of all, great report. As everyone says, this is a great and necessary summary. My thought here is parks versus parks with playgrounds, and the extent to which the demographic shifts that are going on are being considered before we replace equipment or upgrade equipment, just to make sure that the use of the park still justifies equipment versus it just being a park, and maybe no longer with playground equipment. So is that, if I understood that correctly, that'll be part of, when you get right down to doing it, each park will be considered in that light?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Harper, absolutely. The playground component and the compliance of the playground component, although it is the most expensive component in most cases of the parks, that's not what the full use is. And our plan is to actually, have public engagement and have consultation with all the main users of the park, and have every component be looked at on its full use. It's about engaging the community, sparking activity, having people gather together. It's not just playing on play equipment. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Councillor Margetson.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Lisa, I'm glad to see this is under your portfolio now because of your enthusiasm and energy, and that's good news, I think, for the community and for council. I wasn't going to say this, but regarding the funding, and there's 110,000 for the parks in Hillier. You probably know this, but I've been asking to try and sever the old public works yard off at Jack Taylor Park, because someone approached me a few years ago that was interested in buying that for storage, for machinery storage. So I'd still like to see that maybe in this term of council happen if we can make it work. And there's another property right around the corner. And as far as the Campark, there's the old fire hall in Consicon that's been sitting vacant for, I don't know, 5 years or so. If we could move that off of our asset list and put some money, I don't know if we could use it in that community, but those are things that I see as opportunities for us to get rid of things that we're not using and use those funds elsewhere. So, and one's directly connected to the Taylor Park. Thank you.
Madam CEO.
Through the chair to Councillor Margetson, I just wanted to add, thank you for that comment. We are taking an asset management look to all of our asset classes. You're starting to see these reports come in more regularly. We are working on analysis as it relates to our building holdings as another class of assets. So while that building happens to be physically part of the piece of land that is the park, it's being treated as part of the building's asset class, and we definitely will be bringing that back for probably in the first half of 2021 so that we can make some decisions and move forward.
Thank you. Was there anybody else? Councillor Maynard.
Yes, thank you. Just briefly, touching on the community engagement, and I think that is a really important component. And hopefully our rec committees can help facilitate some of that. But the opportunity to fundraise and show pride and ownership of your local parks is really important. And I know for the residents of Consicon, I would doubt whether there's been any municipal money spent on equipment in that park probably since Centennial, and it is actually the Consicon Centennial Park. What was there in the late 90s was remnants of what came from the old school, set of swings, a slide, a merry-go-round type of thing. And I would just like to say that we tried to get a plaque, but we're denied, that said, you know, this park built entirely by the community, and that there was no funds from municipal, federal, or provincial partners. So as we go forward, if we can try and have at least pieces of that, not expecting communities to raise the amount of funds that are necessary for new equipment, but some recognition that then leads to pride and ownership and care of our parks.
Thank you. If there's no one else, we'll take this to vote then. All in favor? And that carries. Brings us to item 6.4, report of the clerk's office dated October 29th, 2020 regarding state of the cemeteries, condition update, and revenue opportunities. Who would undertake to put this on the floor? Councillor Harper, Councillor Nyman.
So Harper, Nyman motion. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That report CL 16-2020 of the clerk's office be received for information. That the draft advised bylaw to provide for the maintenance, management, and control of all municipal cemeteries in the County of Prince Edward attached to this report be approved and enacted at the November 10th, 2020 council meeting. 3, that following council approval, the cemeteries bylaw be sent to the Bereavement Authority of Ontario for approval. That the draft cemeteries price list be approved and incorporated into the 2021 fees and charges bylaw. And that staff be directed to use the allocated funds for the purchase of a columbarium for Sophiasburg Cemetery. If I could just get my 2 cents in, and then I'll turn it over to everybody. I wanted to
Please go ahead.
Yeah, just to again say how to, kudos to the staff, Mallory and Adam and company. Great summary. When I got on the cemetery committee, I really didn't feel that staff had a great sense of what was going on. The revenues to expenses, the trends, and so on. I really feel we now have the problem defined and the challenge is properly defined. And I just want to make one comment about, I mentioned it to you earlier about the pioneer cemeteries. We have a total of 53 cemeteries, 45 of which are inactive. and there's no revenue there. So, it's a pretty significant issue, and Greater Napanee is in the same boat as us, and I understand that they've called us and asked, what are we going to do? And I'm going to give Mallory a chance to just speak to that if she wants to, but I just want to make the point that, pioneer cemeteries will be something we'll have to look at closely given the number that we have. And that just a heads up to Ernie and company at the Heritage Advisory Committee that there may be some need to have a little word with you guys about all of that, because I think, we need to, work collaboratively about how we're going to solve this thing. So over to Mallory if she wanted to comment on any of that. Thank you.
Sure. So as it says in the report, we do have a large number of pioneer cemeteries, and that number could grow over time. So we do have a legislative responsibility to take over the management, I guess you could say ownership, of abandoned cemeteries. So that could be any church-run cemeteries, any cemeteries that someone has in their backyard. If those are deemed abandoned, the municipality must take over those cemeteries. So this number has increased over time. And again, we could be handed other cemeteries over the years. So it's important for us to have a plan to get this under control so that we aren't losing significant funds towards these pioneer cemeteries.
Oh, I'm back. Thank you. Next I have Councillor Roberts, followed by Councillor Prinzen and Bailey.
Just a appreciation for the report. Sandy didn't mention it today, but on the Sophiasburg Cemetery columbarium, it's important to note that it's also a net revenue generator. I think it's something around $30,000 in terms of cost, but pretty close to $100,000 in net revenue. So that helps a bit too. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure if when she made her comment earlier, the number was really clear, but about 70% of people are choosing to be cremated now. And at the moment, we only have the option to purchase lots, so we don't have any columbariums at this point. Glenwood Cemetery does, but they are not a municipal cemetery. So having this option is it's a good plan, because if people are increasingly being cremated and we don't really have a great infrastructure for that option, these sales would be a great source of revenue to offset the costs that we have for the pioneer cemeteries.
Good. Thanks, Mallory. Councillor Prinzen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll echo everybody else in saying this is a great report. I would just like to bring council's attention. It's Quaker Cemetery in the heart of Bloomfield. Looking at the numbers here, is the third highest available with graves available. I don't know how to go about it. I've chatted before about it, but the entrance to Quaker is, if anybody has gone in there, is not, I'm going to call it not acceptable. So I'm not sure whether I go to the cemetery board or to Mallory, Director of Operations, but we should really, for the grieving families that have to enter the Quaker Cemetery, whether it be on an anniversary or a burial or whatever, we should probably look at that being a more, I don't know the proper word, but I think you get it's just not acceptable right now, so thanks.
I see Mallory taking notes, so I think that will be. That's enough.
Adam might be on Zoom. I'm not sure. Adam, are you on Zoom? Do you have a comment on that?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, through you, to Councillor Prinzen, thank you for the comment. We are committing in operations to doing a better job of some of these access and other items with the cemeteries, and so please leave it with me, and we will look into repairing the driveway and making it more serviceable.
Follow up?
Yes, please. Thank you, Adam, for that response. I'll fire you an email and we'll have a chat someday. Thank you very much.
Good, thank you. Councillor Bailey.
We keep saying the same thing. Great report. Thank you very much. And Councillor Roberts already brought this up. Costs, I believe, are roughly 26,000. Net revenue is 94,780. That works so well, it's not funny. So my question is, do we have other locations that we are thinking of putting more? My reason for that is I lived in an Asian neighborhood where columbariums were normal, in fact, expected. So with that in mind, they make so much sense in a cost per revenue basis, and people are looking for them. Again, more locations, do you think?
Sophiasburg Cemetery has significantly the most available land, so that's why the first one was decided to go there by the Cemetery Advisory Committee, I believe, a few years ago. Ideally, we would make a plan after we get this first one going to have maybe 3 or 4 in an area in the Sophiasburg Cemetery together and have an opportunity to have some nice landscaping and a good space there. So I think that's the initial plan. I don't believe there is enough space at the other cemeteries for this. There might be at one of them that doesn't have all of the land mapped up at this point, but I believe it would be a plan to develop them in the Sophiasburg Cemetery.
Good, thank you. Councillor Nyman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It is a good report. Just a couple of questions. Well, one comment first. I'm glad to see that we're buying Canadian products. And I think after this pandemic, at the start of it, we should be supporting more Canadian companies. The columbariums, Glenwood, I believe, has 2 or 3. So my question is, when is the one in Sophiasburg going to be up? Because as you said, it's been a couple years and it's still not there. So what's the date that it's going to be up?
So I think this is something that was, Adam and I were kind of piecing together. We know this came to Committee of the Whole, I believe, a year or 2 ago, and I think the process was on hold since it came up at that point. If we do have the allocated funds for the project, so we could move forward with this in the spring and definitely have it up by the summer, as what I've heard from Glenwood.
Follow up?
Yeah, I thought the funds were already allotted for that when we voted on it before. So I'm just wondering, what's the holdup?
Through the chair to Councillor Nyman. So we will confirm the future budget lines for this, as well as what is already budgeted when we bring budget forward, and work with operations on a work plan for when this will get implemented.
Thank you.
So we'll watch for that line in December. Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, let's take this to a vote. All in favor? Thank you, and that carries. This brings us now to item 6.5, resolution by Councillor St. Jean, and I'll simply ask you to take it away, Councillor St. Jean.
Yes, first of all, I'd like to ask for a seconder. I don't officially have that.
I've got Councillor Bailey.
Okay, thank you. So this is a St. Jean Bailey resolution. Whereas James A. Taylor served the residents of Prince Edward County as a member of provincial parliament from 1971 to 87, holding cabinet posts as both Minister of Community and Social Services and Minister of Energy. And whereas on January the 1st, 1998, James A. Taylor took office as the first mayor of the newly formed Prince Edward County. He served as the architect of the original administrative and governance structure, which included the successful amalgamation of 10 previous municipalities into one. And whereas James A. Taylor proceeded to serve 2 terms as mayor of Prince Edward County before his retirement in 2003, and whereas the Millennium Lookout offers a spectacular panoramic view overlooking the waters of Picton Bay, lands to the north, west, and east of Prince Edward County, and whereas in 1999, the Millennium Lookout project was proposed by James A. Taylor as a project of lasting community interest and celebration of the coming millennium. Now therefore be it resolved that Prince Edward County Council honor former Mayor James A. Taylor QC for his commitment and dedication to public service for Prince Edward County residents by rededicating and renaming the Millennium Lookout the James A. Taylor Millennium Lookout, and further, that staff be directed to create a plaque and appropriate signage at the James A. Taylor Millennium Lookout that is representative of James A. Taylor's contributions to Prince Edward County, and further, that staff organize a rededication ceremony and plaque unveiling at the James A. Taylor Millennium Lookout in late summer or fall of 2021. If I may speak to it, sir?
Please.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to, I will say this. I am not unaware of the particular conversation in the community when it comes to public naming. But in this case, I believe this is not the same as what has been discussed in our community, but rather, in my view, it is honoring somebody who has most recently passed away, and for the better part of their public career, devoted their time and efforts to making our community a much better place, as stated in the resolution. And because of his direct connection to this particular site, I feel that it's important that we recognize this individual, as he was our first amalgamated mayor. And we have several examples in our community of dedications, particularly in Picton. We'll say you have McDonald Drive, which, by the way, is not Johnny McDonald Drive. No reference there. McFarland Drive, and the most recent street naming being Finnegan Drive, which some of you on council remember, which is the street that enters, goes past H.J. McFarland home and goes to the Wellings. So with some of those examples in mind, I think it's a common practice, and I think it's a good practice to recognize those that have made significant contributions to our community. So therefore, I put this motion forward, and I encourage and hope that everyone will support this.
Thank you. Does someone have anything else to add? Mayor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will support this. Mayor Taylor, as I said previously, I didn't know him well, but the reason we're here is because of, the effort he put into the task he was assigned to amalgamate the community. So I'm fully supportive of this, Councillor Prinson. I think this is a terrific opportunity and to draw some more attention to that particular point in the county. So you've got my support.
Thank you. If there's no one else, then let's see if we can do a unanimous vote on this. All in favor? And that carries. Thank you. We're going to get out of here before having to extend yet. Brings us to item 6.6, resolution by Councillor McNaughton regarding Bill 218. If you'd like to take that away, Councillor McNaughton, do you have a seconder?
I do. I've got
Councillor
Councillor Phil St. Jean. So this is the McNaughton St. Jean resolution. Whereas municipalities in Ontario are responsible for conducting the fair and democratic elections of local representatives, and whereas Government of Ontario with Bill 218 supporting Ontario's Recovery and Municipal Elections Act 2020 is proposing changes to the Municipal Elections Act of 1996 to prohibit the use of ranked ballots in future municipal elections and to extend nomination day from the end of July to the second Friday in September. And whereas each municipal election is governed by the Municipal Elections Act, which was amended in 2016 to include the option to allow municipalities to utilize ranked ballots for their elections and shorter nomination periods. And whereas London, Ontario ran the first ranked ballot election in 2018, and several other municipalities have approved bylaws to adopt the practice or are in the process of doing so. including our regional neighbors in Kingston via a referendum return of 63%. And whereas the operation, finance, and regulatory compliance of elections is fully undertaken by municipalities themselves, and whereas local governments are best poised to understand the representational needs and challenges of the body politic that they represent, and when looking at alternative voting methods to ensure more people vote safely, it becomes more difficult to implement these alternatives with the proposed shorter nomination period between nomination day and October 24th, 2022 election day. Now therefore be it resolved that Prince Edward County Council send a letter to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, urging that the Government of Ontario continues to respect Ontario municipalities' ability to apply sound representative principles in their execution of elections, and that the Government of Ontario supports the freedom of municipalities to run democratic elections within the existing framework the Act currently offers, and that this resolution be circulated to all Ontario municipalities, AMO and AMCTO. And
if you'd like to speak to it.
May I? Thank you. So the reason that I put this forward, and I'm hoping it will receive support, is simply to respond to a bill that proposes to remove some electoral freedom for municipalities. And I believe that it is our job as a municipality to support the most freedom possible within the framework that the Act offers for municipalities to conduct their elections according to what the populace can support. So the changes offered in the bill, for one, reduces options of municipalities, and I think it deserves quite a lot of scrutiny. If you're going to make a change that reduces choice for municipalities. And the other problem is the other issue is the extension of nomination day from the end of July to the second Friday in September. Now, everyone at this table knows nomination day is the final day of nominations. For everyone listening, it means that's the last day that you can toss your hat in the ring. And what the government is proposing is to reduce that to pretty much a 6-week period. I don't even know if it's quite 6 weeks. And because of early voting, which happens in advance of that, we're reducing it to not even a month, probably, between the final nominee being able to put their name in the ring and actual early voting. So I think that this will create a bit of havoc for municipalities to manage the administrative side of elections. So for those two reasons, I believe we should be urging the government to step back from this plan and just follow the existing rules as laid out right now, which are very good. So, and the other thing to note is that this has gone to the Judicial Policy Committee, and if it is accepted by council and we do move forward with this, I would like to also send the resolution itself or any resulting letter to the Judicial Policy Committee itself.
Thank you. Let me ask you a quick question because you may know the answer. I'm aware that other municipalities are also crafting similar resolutions and letters to the provincial government. Do you have any idea how many at this point?
No, I don't. No? The one that's hit the news the most is London, who was the first municipality to engage in ranked ballots, and they in the first election in which it was permitted. And they're looking for a couple of things. One is for municipalities, they're looking to get AMO support, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, to advocate, to take a full advocacy position on this. They have stated, AMO has stated its concern on their webpage, but they take their lead from municipalities. London is appealing to them to say, please take a position on this and lobby on behalf of municipalities. The other approach that they're taking is to look for an exemption so that at least the investment that they have undertaken and the money that they have spent on what they feel at this point was a successful experiment will not be wasted, and that they will be allowed to go forward with municipalities as they deem appropriate for their body politic. There are others. Kingston has one coming, I believe it's November 3rd or November 4th, and it's on my calendar, but I'm not going to look it up right now. And there's, same thing, is urging the government to allow them to continue with their plans by stepping back from this position, which as yet has not received a full explanation. So.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Nyman.
Mr. Chair, I just want to make sure I understand. So right now, AMO hasn't taken a position on this? AMO hasn't taken a position on this? Is that my understanding?
Well, they've stated concern, but they have not created an advocacy position. So it's not essentially a file that they're actively pursuing. They wait for municipalities and take some of their direction from municipalities. So they need to start hearing, they need to start seeing resolutions in order to do that.
Can I follow up and ask staff a
Yes,
question, please?
sure.
Excuse me. Thank you. So you can correct me if I'm wrong, but AMO will usually, if they have a position on it, they will send something out to the municipalities saying, this is coming up and this is the position that, or this is what we are suggesting. They haven't done that? Am I right in thinking that?
Through the chair, I have not seen an official response from AMO, but I have seen the Association of Municipal Clerks and Treasurers take a position on it, and that's the organization that I belong to, and their position is changing the rules. The MEA was just passed 3 years ago. Changing the rules for this election after the one that was run in 2018 successfully, given municipalities the option of the method of voting, whether to use ranked ballots, whether to use internet, whatever the choice was as per the Municipal Elections Act. Changing that so closely as we're beginning to plan an election with a COVID-19 pandemic, it does throw a curveball. In the county, we're one of the municipalities with a big council, and having the nomination period be so close to the election day, it's an operational challenge. So I, personally speaking, I'm not sure about about AMO, but AMCTO has taken the position, and the position is that the rules should not be changed.
Can I follow up?
Yes.
So right now, I can't support it, but after everybody's done speaking, I'll make a motion, if I could get a seconder, that I would support part of that motion by the nomination date not being moved to September, staying the same, the end of July. So I would,
Okay, thank you.
when the time comes.
Thank you. I guess we're going to need a motion to extend after all. Councillor Bailey, Councillor Margetson, all in favor? Thank you. We are extending. I'm sorry, who had their hand up next? Councillor Roberts?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will support the motion. I'm not sure we were the target. I think the Premier has an interest in the City of Toronto, and I think that was probably his real target. So it's kind of a bit, all you've got is a hammer, everything's a nail. So I don't think, we are collateral damage in that. And it's kind of funny, in a way, because ranked balloting is what got Mr. Ford elected as the head of the Ontario Progressive Conservative Party. That was the process that was used. So I'm with Kate on this one. London and Kingston and others I've seen have been contemplating ranked ballots. I think municipalities, our powers and tools are so limited that, give us a break, give us some tools that we can have some options with. And I do believe that it leads to more diverse candidates coming into electoral politics. And that 51% threshold, I think that's important. I think it was in 2014 that an Ontario municipal councillor was elected with only 17% of the vote. So, anything that moves us into a 51%, I think, is a good idea. And all the research out there on ranked ballots says it leads to, more civil discourse, more respectful, more, decency with regard to campaigning. It compels parties and candidates to, broaden their perspective and to moderate. And in so much that we deal with here at Council, we see the polarizing power of social media. So anything that accomplishes those other things I just mentioned has my vote, so I'll be supporting it.
Councillor Bailey, and then McNaughton.
I just needed to confirm what Madam Clerk was heading toward in terms of our own election, because I had to have a change put on the ballot because of my name. And when I brought this up to Kim White, I just hit it at the last minute to make that change. There was literally a very limited amount of time in which Kim could actually change any part of the ballot. And I'm there thinking, but this is quite a distance away. No, the printing has to be done so that the machine knows exactly what it's looking at when it's reading the ballots, et cetera, et cetera. So again, keeping it that close to the actual election day, no, it doesn't work.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Maynard, I did pass you over.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I too am going to support this this resolution, and I do think that we got caught up in issues between the province and the City of Toronto, or all other municipalities in the province. And just for clarification, my understanding is AMO takes their direction from municipalities, and in large part through resolutions such as this. And I mean, it's not really germane to the discussion whether we ever use ranked balloting or not here, but it certainly should be an option. And my bigger concern is wrapping up that shortening the time to put your name on the ballot as being almost logistically impossible in this particular municipality. So I think this is important, and yeah, it's a resolution only. We'll see what they do with it, but in numbers there is might, and I am convinced that we are not going to will be in good company in passing such a resolution.
Thank you, Councillor McNaughton.
Just for clarity, although they aren't taking an advocacy position at this time, I'll just quote AMO's news flash on this from their website. It says, the last line of the paragraphs that they include simply says, the rationale for this change is unclear and may have the effect of discouraging broader participation in municipal elections. So although they've not stated an advocacy position, they also are stating a position of a sort. So just for clarity.
Thank you. Mayor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, we're looking at a situation that may prove to be a logistical nightmare. Just to provide a bit of background, it's my understanding that, and there are questions about why this is being proposed now when we're in the middle of a pandemic. But municipalities have had the opportunity to take advantage of this. London and Kingston obviously have, nobody has. So the thought seems to be that this is a bit of a housekeeping matter. If there's no interest, then, or nominal interest, then let's take it off the table. But I don't agree with that approach. So I'm happy to support this, and I'm happy to put a letter out, but it will be important for other municipalities to also express their opinion and, assert their feeling that, this is an important consideration and we should have the opportunity to do this as a municipality. So Thank you, Kate. I think this is well thought out and brought forward, so I'm happy to support it.
Thank you. Councillor Nyman, then you said you had a change to propose?
Yes. If I could get a seconder, I'd take the, where it says, something about the ranked balloting, if you took that out. Yeah, if you took that in the second paragraph, or, no, sorry, to extend the nomination date from the end of July to the, or wait a second. Yeah, take the ranked balloting out. I would support the motion to leave the nomination day as July instead of September. So if I get a seconder on that, I think first past the post, there's nothing wrong with it. It's been done that way for years. It's very straightforward and a lot less work, I think, for the clerk. So, and there's not many municipalities. We have 444 municipalities in the province, and I'm only hearing 2 that use ranked balloting. So make it uniform and just say first past the post for everybody. So if I get a seconder for that, I'd put that motion on the floor.
Madam CEO.
Through the chair to Councillor Nyman, I think to get the spirit of what you're asking, it would be removing the first bullet of the second whereas clause and removing the third and fourth whereas clauses, because then this would be a motion that does not reference ranked ballots at all and would just be the rest of the.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam CEO. I guess the question still is there a seconder? Councillor Prinzen is a seconder. So we'll speak to the amendment. Councillor McNaughton?
Well, I would just correct, only one municipality has, it's London, but several others have already done the investment in public consultations and referendums to go forward for 2022, and 1 or 2 of them have had to put it off till 2026 in consideration of COVID and expenditure. So it's many more municipalities than just 1 or 2. And more potentially waiting in the wings with plans for consultations. So just wanted to clarify in that regard.
Councillor Bailey.
Through the chair, I think Councillor McNaughton can confirm this for me. The way I'm reading this, it's that we don't want to be prohibited from the option of using ranked ballots. It's not that we're stating we want ranked ballots now. So we could still go to first across the line kind of thing.
Yes.
Okay.
So may I comment?
The clerk has a pertinent comment to make.
So through your worship, every year, every election period, the winter before, you get a method of voting report that comes to council. And that outlines all of the different voting methods that you can choose. So in-person voting, electronic internet voting, vote by mail. So it has all of the different options, and it would have ranked ballots. And at that time, you will decide as a council what the method of voting will be for the 2022 election. So as Councillor Bailey pointed out, this is just an advocacy piece to ensure that municipalities still have that option of ranked ballots should they choose to utilize it.
Thank you for that clarification. Councillor McNaughton.
Yes, and back to Councillor Bailey's question, it really is just about maintaining freedom for municipalities to choose for themselves. So we're supporting municipalities to make as much choice as possible within the act.
Exactly right. Councillor Harper.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just so I can clarify, I think, Kate, if I got it right, you're really just saying you're asking us to support status quo.
Yes. Instead of over-regulation, yes.
Thank you.
Is there any more discussion on Councillor Nyman's proposed amendment to essentially remove the references to ranked ballot? If not, then let's vote on that amendment. All in favor? I see 2. Councillor Bullock, no? So it looks like that fails. Is there any further discussion on the main motion then, or will we just vote on that?
Mr. Chair, can I ask for a recorded vote?
It's committee of the whole, yep. Okay, all in favor? And that carries.
I was asking for a recorded vote, please.
Committee of the whole, we don't do recorded votes.
Okay, that's fine.
So that motion, that resolution, I'm sorry, carries. And that will bring us to adjournment. Can I have a motion to adjourn? That would be Councillor Prinzen, seconded by Councillor McNaughton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the Prince McNaughton motion that we now adjourn at 4:17 p.m.
All in favor? Thank you, and thank you for a good meeting.